5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
From inside our two-bedroom apartment in downtown Baltimore, it is the MASN All Access Podcast. Paul Mancano, Brendan Mortensen, here with you as always on a Tuesday morning.
Yeah, we got a little bit away from doing Tuesdays, and now we're back to it.
Now we're back to Tuesdays, and we have a lot to talk about here on this podcast. An exciting, thrilling win. Frankly, I think one of the more exciting wins so far of the early season. Orioles over the Yankees last night in the series opener. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about who else, Cedric Mullins and his absolute dominance. We're going to talk about Matt Harvey as well and how good he has been as of late. And then later on in the podcast, we're going to be joined by Melanie Newman, the much-anticipated coffee draft, all coffee draft, a 3-round coffee draft in which Brendan looks like a fool.
What else is new?
Yeah, what else is new? I think I came out pretty well. And Melanie, of course, dominated us both. So
yeah, as expected.
Yeah,
we asked coffee draft.
We ask her no baseball questions because she spends all of her day, every day, talking baseball. So figured let's just get to the good stuff, which is the coffee. But let's, for now, Brendan, talk a little baseball, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yesterday, I said I think it was one of the more exciting wins of the early season. I think it was a weird win.
Yeah.
Very strange. In that game last night, you had a balk that resulted in a run. You had a manager getting ejected in the 8th inning. And you had a rare play of determining whether a runner crossed home plate before a tag was applied on a play behind him on an outfield assist. Very strange game.
Yeah, so you have to imagine on that play that Aaron Judge is assuming that there is going to be a throw home, because it would have been a relatively close play for DJ LeMahieu crossing home plate if Austin Hayes had decided to fire home. But instead, Austin Hayes elects to fire to third. And it looks like Judge is tagged before DJ LeMahieu hits home plate. Aaron Boone was tossed immediately after not being given the chance to challenge that play. It was a really, really weird scenario that resulted in everybody thinking that it was 4-3 and then it being 4-2 and the inning was over.
Yeah.
So a really, really weird 8th inning, but the Orioles close it out after a really good start from Matt Harvey.
Those are the most exciting wins, are the ones where you can't tell what's going on. And look,
sure, yeah.
The Orioles and Yankees have had their fair share of kind of strange games. I mean, even the series finale up at Yankee Stadium in early April was a little bit weird with that game going to 11 and Gleyber Torres' error costing the Yankees, at least extending that game and giving the Orioles the win in that one. They've had weird games at Yankee Stadium. I think of like the Michael Givens sliding. He throws the wild pitch and then has to tag somebody out at the plate. Like crazy plays like that. The double play, I think it was at Yankee Stadium where Caleb Joseph throws somebody out at third on a dribbler in front of the plate. All kinds of crazy plays that have gone on. And that one was very fun. And it's a little bit more fun that it happens over the Yankees. And look, there are 3 games left in the series. But for the time being, the Orioles are a game ahead of the Yankees in the standings, who are in very last in the American League East.
In very last, sitting at 9-13, the Orioles improved to 10-12 on the win last night. Let's talk a little bit about Matt Harvey.
Yeah.
Matt Harvey was really, really good in that win over the Yankees. He goes 6 innings, allows just 1 run, strikes out 5. He walks 3 batters, which we haven't really seen from Matt Harvey so far this year, and that was pretty much, I think, the only knock that you could put on his performance last night.
Yeah, I mean, those 3 walks doubled his season total. Is it early enough for us to give ourselves a little pat in the back, Brendan? Is it early enough? Too early?
I'm going to pat myself on the back because I think I was even a little more bullish about Matt Harvey going into the year.
Could you reach across the podcast table?
I don't want to do that.
And give me a little...
No, because I'm more proud of myself than I am of you.
We both had the same take on the last podcast.
Yeah, but I said it earlier.
No.
I said it. I think I was a little more optimistic about Matt Harvey going into the season than you were. But yes, we both did have the take of we are thinking that Matt Harvey is going to be at least decent for the Orioles this season.
Look, Matt Harvey talked the talk in spring training.
He did.
He said all the right things about coming back, improving his the analytics side, delving more into spin rate, all that good stuff, improving his off-speed pitches, and getting some late life on that fastball. And so far, he has walked the walk. His ERA after last night, those 6 innings of one-run ball, goes down to 4.26. He now has 21 strikeouts and 5 starts. He's looked very good.
Yeah.
And it passes the eye test as well. We talked about him getting unlucky last podcast with fielding independent pitching. His FIP goes, which, again, strips away all the kind of defense behind him, ballpark factors, that kind of stuff, goes all the way down to 330, which means that if he had average defense behind him, he'd have a 3.30 ERA. He's been phenomenal. Way better than I think any of us expected.
Yeah, and the luck turned a little bit for Matt Harvey last night. I don't think he was... I don't know if he was at his sharpest last night. I think it was his best start of the season. I think his expected ERA actually went up after last night's start because the fielders behind him made a bunch of good plays, and he really only makes one really bad pitch in that game, and that was the double that he surrendered to Aaron Judge. But the other important thing with Harvey last night, he goes 6 innings. Yeah. In his previous 4 starts, he had 2 starts going 4 2/3 innings, 2 starts going 5 innings, and this is the first start of the year where the Orioles bullpen didn't have to work 4 innings.
Yeah.
After a Matt Harvey start. So really big for him to go at least 6 innings in this game.
And I think last podcast, when he had a 5.12 ERA, we were looking at him being better than we expected, but not quite to the point where he could get you a return on investment and get a trade. Matt Harvey's becoming tradable.
Yeah.
That is the name of the podcast, and it is the theme here, because a 5.12 ERA is not going to get you traded, no matter what the surrounding stats might tell you. That's just a little too high. But a 4.26 might get you traded. Tommy Milone got you traded with a 3.99, and he got you a couple prospects at the deadline from a very desperate Atlanta Braves team.
Yeah.
This Matt Harvey, with the improved pitchability, and right now he's 5 starts in, and it's looking like he can get better. It's not looking like he's topped out. It looks like he probably has more left in the tank. This was his best start of the season. 6 innings, 1 run against the Yankees. He still has room to grow from this season. So it's not like the Orioles are at this point crossing their fingers and hoping that, he maintains somewhat close to that and there's not too much of a drop off. They're hoping he can get even better over the course of the season and maybe get himself into a spot where teams are eyeing him as a trade piece.
Well, look, the ERA obviously doesn't mean everything. If you're a team trading for a starting pitcher, you're obviously going to look at a lot more than just that ERA. But I think the important thing with Harvey, too, he hasn't lost the Orioles any games. He's gone out and he's had pretty decent starts through his first 4 and then comes out against the Yankees last night and goes 6 innings, 1 earned. But even if Harvey throughout the first half of the season is going 5 innings, 2 earned, 3 earned, somewhere around there, that keeps you in every game. And I think that's valuable to a contender down the stretch, maybe a team that has a good bullpen and just doesn't have many great starting pitching arms. Maybe a team like the Mariners would be interested in someone like Matt Harvey, where you just need to get to your bullpen in a manageable game. And at least so far, Matt Harvey has shown that he can do that.
Well, he's not going to be, a top name off the market, obviously, when it comes to starting pitching, but teams pony up for starting pitching at the deadline. And guys like Andrew Kashner become more... they will yield you a better return than other types of players, than position players by the most parts. And so he's not going to be a top name on the market, but teams are not always looking for aces. In fact, I think it's rare that they're looking for aces at the deadline. A lot of these teams, maybe they have some injuries along the way. They need a 4th, 5th starter. That's how Tommy Milone got traded last year, is there were injuries in that Braves rotation. They weren't looking for an ace when they traded for Tommy Milone. They were looking for a guy who could give them some starts. Now, he didn't give them any good starts, and neither did Andrew Kashner for the Red Sox, but that's not the Orioles' problem.
Yeah.
The problem is obviously getting those guys to the point where they look good enough to be traded. And I think that there are some teams. I think of the Phillies, a team that definitely sees themselves as a playoff team, but needs to fill a hole in that rotation with not an ace, but somebody who is serviceable enough. And if teams get, 5 games is probably still not enough of a sample size. And obviously teams don't make trades like that often in April. But when you get to the end of May, maybe beginning of June, if he's still putting up these numbers, that is probably going to be enough to entice a team to trade for him.
I'd say so. I mean, heck, even a team like the Yankees that it needs just about everything.
Look across
it seems
the dugout.
Yeah, they could use starting pitching, but I think the big thing for Matt Harvey is if he is continuing to keep these games manageable.
Yeah.
If he doesn't blow up in a start in the first half, if he doesn't allow more than 6 or 7 runs in an outing, I think there's a pretty good chance he gets dealt.
Which is also, we talked about before the season, you sign Felix Hernandez, you sign Matt Harvey, and the hope is that maybe one of those two turns into something. Because odds are you're not going to hit on both minor league deals, $1 million incentive if they make the team. But if you hit on one of them, that's all you need. And this is an Orioles system. I know, obviously, fans are getting more and more eager to see the returns from some of these prospects and to see what they have to offer. But this farm system is top 5 in baseball. It's great, but it can be even better. And you do need to bolster that farm system just a little bit more. It's not exactly where Mike Elias wants it to be. I'm sure he wants it to be in the top 2. Probably.
Well, and you can't have too many good prospects.
Yeah,
exactly. The only problems that you can run into with too many prospects is that you have guys fighting for roster spots.
Right.
Which is kind of a scenario that we're going to be seeing relatively soon with the Orioles. But one other thing I wanted to point out with Matt Harvey there, Paul, he's allowed just 2 home runs this year.
Yeah.
And last night he snapped the Orioles streak of allowing a home run to the opposing team in every game at Camden Yards.
And I think he's allowing less than a home run per 9.
Yeah.
Which is...
Well, it's his best home runs per 9 since he led the league in that category in 2013.
Yeah, and I think part of that was last night he was keeping the ball down. He was very much attacking against that Yankees lineup, the bottom third of the zone.
Down and away.
Down and away, and he honestly got hurt by some tough calls, I think, in the strike zone. There were some pitches that... And you mentioned the only real mistake that he made was that 0-2 pitch to Judge that led to the 1 RBI. That was it. That was it. And even that is not a terrible pitch because, it's not like he left it up in the zone for Judge to drive it out of the ballpark.
Yeah, it was a slider on the inner half that just caught a little bit too much of the plate.
It was, and the context makes it tougher considering it was 0-2 with 2 outs. But, you looked across. I know, Davey Garcia is 21 years old. He's a prospect for the Yankees, technically still. It was his first appearance at 2021. But he was having all kinds of command issues, and I was just thinking that's something that I was expecting to see from Matt Harvey this year. Some wild pitches as he's trying to figure stuff out. His command has been good. Yeah. It has been very good.
He was locating really, really well last night, and like you said, the Yankees have not been a good lineup so far this season. That's not a mystery to anybody, but they can still hit home runs.
They still have
You've
the
still
names
got
in that
Aaron
lineup.
Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, and against those two guys, I know they both hit doubles in this game, but they hit doubles off of decent pitches.
Yeah.
You mentioned the mistake to Judge, but the Giancarlo Stanton double was a good pitch that he just did something with.
I think Cespedes Family Barbecue, friends of the pod, have said before, you're going to get a Judge or Stanton monster home run in at least one of these games. Yeah. It's just baked in, just based on the fact that those guys are so good and they're going to tag. They're going to get you at some point.
You just limit it as much as you can.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's talk about somebody who did hit 2 homers yesterday. Somebody who
holy segue.
It is becoming. You go from Aaron Judge and Giancarlo. Look, I think the physical body type,
power hitter, Cedric Mullins.
The physical body type. You go from 6'6" Aaron Judge.
Can't tell them apart.
5'8" Cedric Mullins.
Look, if you stood these two next to each other,
one guy hit 2 home runs in the game yesterday,
and it was Cedric Mullins.
Spoiler
alert.
We have spent so much airtime on this podcast.
Not enough, I dare say.
Talking about Cedric Mullins.
Not enough.
But he deserves even more. He's hitting .365. He has 3 home runs.
Yeah.
He had 3 hits yesterday, all of them extra base hits. He had 3 hits on Sunday.
Yeah, I was going to say his second straight game with 3 hits.
This guy's been so good. I know
Yeah.
we are just 3.5 weeks into the season. Well, 4 weeks, I guess, into the season. But it cannot be overstated how good he has been at the plate.
He is, his on-base percentage is .420. He is slugging .575. And he has an OPS close to 1.
You know,
It's ridiculous.
if this were the 2020 season where it's 60 games, like he would already have MVO locked up. He would already
Easy.
have most valuable Oriole rather locked up.
And maybe the most ridiculous stat for Cedric Mullins so far this year, he's 15 for 33 against left-handed pitching. That's .455 against lefties.
Considering he had not batted from the left side of the plate against lefties,
in his career.
yeah, since he became a professional baseball player.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely
for Cedric
incredible.
Mullins.
He's making incredible contact. I know he's still not going to walk a ton, but
I
when
don't
he is-
care.
I don't care either. And that second home run was absolutely smoked.
Yeah.
To dead center field.
Yep.
On a night when the wind, it appeared, was blowing in and it was knocking a lot of balls down. There were some balls that probably would have gotten out on a warm summer night, but ended up getting knocked down and ended up being long fly balls. And Cedric Mullins drills a ball to center. Just straight away center over the wall.
Well, and not only that, but the first home run he hit on the second pitch that the Orioles saw was a Utah Street dinger.
Yeah. How about that? Who would've
It's
thought-
not sneaky power anymore, folks. He's second on the Orioles in home runs with 3.
We thought DJ Stewart might hit some balls onto Utah Street. We thought maybe Anthony Santander might hit some balls onto Utah Street, but instead, we're going to see a lot of Cedric Mullins plaques.
What fools we were
Yeah.
for not going into the season saying the best Orioles hitter is going to be Cedric Mullins.
I just also want to pat myself on the back. This is just a podcast of... Somebody commented on one of our YouTube live streams and said Paul Mancano a legend in his own mind, and that's just... I took that as
sticks
fuel.
with you, doesn't it?
Yeah, I took that as fuel.
I mean, that comment was like months ago
it just
at this
played
point.
into my ego. I wake up in the morning, I watch Patrick Swayze fight scenes, and I read that comment. It gets me fired up
You
every
say
day.
that could be me right there.
Yeah. And because I took him in the all Orioles roster
You did.
draft.
You
I also
did.
took Felix Hernandez, however,
Yeah.
who did not make the team.
Those teams are going to be very interesting
Yeah.
by the end of the year, but that's for another podcast to make fun of ourselves on.
Exactly. One piece of bad news from the game yesterday would be Freddie Galvis going down with an injury. He's day-to-day groin injury. They don't expect him, obviously, to miss much time.
Right.
And it came after an RBI double. So the biggest way that this affects the Orioles is they option Ryan McKenna to the alternate site after the game. And as of the recording this podcast, they have not made a corresponding move. Brendan, I want to ask you, they're going to bring up an infielder to fill Freddie Galvis's spot. You have your pick of infielders at the alternate site.
Yep.
Who are you bringing up?
Ooh, this is an interesting question.
You got Jahmai Jones.
Yep.
You've got Rylan Bannon. You've got Richie Martin. You've got Pat Valaika.
Yeah. My heart says Jahmai Jones because I want so badly for Jahmai Jones to be at the major league level because I'm just a big fan of his and I think he's going to be great. My brain is telling me that if the Orioles don't promote somebody who can at least play shortstop, then at the major league level, they are left with Ramon Urias as your starting shortstop with no other options behind him. So that pretty much narrows down your choices to Richie Martin and Pat Valaika. And it sounds like going into the season, we know Richie Martin was dealing with some injuries, that they at least wanted to get him some at-bats at the AAA level before promoting him to the majors, and I would guess that they are going to continue to do that. So I think my brain tells me that it's probably going to be Pat Valaika that gets promoted because he can play both shortstop and second base if you want to move the combination of Valaika, Ruiz, and Urias around. I think it's probably going to be Valaika, even though he's not great defensively at shortstop. He's one of the two options that you could promote that can play that position, and he is, I think, more suited at this point at the major league level than is Richie Martin.
And I think whoever this is probably won't have a terribly long stay
Right.
on the roster because Freddie Galvis is going to come back from injury at some point soon. Doesn't sound like he's headed to the IL. So they're going to, my guess is, fill in the shortstop spot with somebody like a Pat Valaika. I would probably imagine it's going to be Pat Valaika as well. Once Freddie Galvis is back and ready to go, they might option whoever that person is back to the alternate site and maybe bring back Ryan McKenna.
Right.
Or another pitcher if they want to go crazy and go with 15 arms. But
yeah, although, not to get into a whole other big tangent, if Pat Valaika gets recalled to the major leagues and is hitting really well, Ramon Urias and Rio Ruiz have both really struggled with the bat, and Pat Valaika is able to play the same positions that Ruiz and Urias are, and he can even play a little bit of outfield as well. So if Valaika comes up and hits, I wouldn't be entirely surprised if it's one of Urias or Ruiz that gets sent down to the alternate site once Freddie Galvis is back up and ready to go.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. And I know that fans are probably, like you, eager to see Jahmai Jones, and some fans are eager to see Rylan Bannon, another top 30 prospect in the Orioles system. I do think their days are coming in 2021. I just don't think it's going to happen this early.
Yeah.
But I do think that they are going to get called up at some point over the coming months.
Yeah, and Mike Elias said the other day when he was on O's Extra on the Orioles MASN broadcast, he said that a lot of the guys at the alternate site are probably going to see Major League time this year.
Yeah. And
that's the plan.
And you have to be encouraged by the fact that Zach Lowther gets an April call-up. Now, I know he got sent right back down, but he did appear in a game and make his Major League debut.
He did.
Probably earlier than either of us predicted.
Yes.
And most people predicted. April was not where we had him getting brought up. I think that we had him more in the June, maybe July time frame. And I think that, when he comes back up to stay, which I do think will happen in 2021, they're going to stick him in the rotation when there is a spot in the rotation.
Yes.
So I think that will probably be later on in the season. But for him to get a nice little cup of coffee and to get a debut, a scoreless ninth inning and a win at Camden Yards, great to see from one of the Orioles' top pitching prospects.
Yeah, it was awesome, and obviously the hope is that Zach Lowther will stay at the Major League level for a more permanent period of time at some point going forward. He's probably kind of in the Ryan McKenna territory at this point of on the Major League roster for a few days and then sent back down and then called back up, and I can't imagine that it's going to be too long before we see Zach Lowther again at the Major League level, because we know the Orioles, at least so far, they have shown that they like to have a lot of versatility in their bullpen, and they like to move guys up and down and be able to arrange their bullpen in different ways. So I would imagine that Zach Lowther will probably get a call up again sometime soon. But the Orioles starting five in their pitching rotation, at least to this point, you can say that maybe Jorge Lopez is the one that you would bump out in favor of someone like Zach Lowther. But I don't think any of those five guys have really lost their spot up to this point, because Jorge Lopez is coming off a good start, and obviously Zimmerman, Harvey, Means have all been good, and you want to give Dean Kramer a chance to figure things out a little bit as well.
Yeah, you don't want to pull the plug prematurely here. And,
right.
Obviously Dean Kramer, not on the team currently, but he's going to be recalled from the alternate site. His bump down was just so that he could get enough work in while he was getting skipped in the rotation. So he'll be back up. They're going to give him every opportunity, obviously, to hold down a roster spot. And then you have Keegan Aitken. Probably he would have been ahead of Zach Lowther on the kind of depth chart in terms of getting called up, but unfortunately had a breakfast incident in which he sliced open his finger.
Those darn breakfast incidents.
Be careful.
Yeah.
With the Egg McMuffins, Brendan. I'll get you.
Yeah.
Hopefully he is able to recover. It did leave stitches, so I don't want to be cavalier about this. That does sound like it was painful.
Yeah.
So hopefully he recovers and is okay enough to return, because he is probably ahead of Zach Lowther.
Right.
Once they are ready to fill a spot in the rotation. Our money is still on Jorge Lopez being the first to kind of get the demotion.
Yep.
Once somebody is ready to take that spot. And once, if he struggles like he did, not in Texas, but in the first couple starts we saw from Jorge Lopez.
Yeah, I think he's probably the one to get bounced. And then if you want to look even further down the line at the trade deadline, we're talking now about how Matt Harvey has maybe pitched his way into that trade conversation. So that could open up a rotation spot as well for some of these prospects.
Exactly. But at this point, O's are in a pretty good spot. 2 games below 500, and just trying to hang with the Yankees here. And Also, we haven't even talked about, and we talked about a lot on the last podcast, how good the bullpen has been.
Oh,
I mean, the bullpen, we saw some shakiness from Tanner Scott yesterday coming in and 6 straight balls to open up. I believe it was the 8th inning for him. And then Cesar Valdez comes in and gives up a double, but runner's thrown out, so that ends the inning. And then a 1-2-3 perfect 9th inning. Just absolutely great stuff from the bullpen.
Yeah, Sean Armstrong really the only one that has an ERA much further north than where he'd like it to be. Tanner Scott was pretty concerning last night, though. He has walked a lot of people so far this season.
Yeah, it's been a trend for him.
Not getting the same strikeout stuff that he had earlier on, but he's still been okay.
Yeah.
He allows, just the 1 run in last night's game because Cesar Valdez is able to come in and bail him out of that sticky situation.
Could have been 2.
Yeah, it could have been more. So Tanner Scott is really the only one that you're looking at and saying, he hasn't been fantastic so far. But Cesar Valdez, Adam Plutko, Paul Fry, Dylan Tate, Travis Lakins, and even Cole Sulser, they've all been really, really good so far.
Yeah, Paul Fry, much was made about his spring training struggles, and then he, in his first appearance of 2021, gives up an earned run and then has not given up an earned run since then. Really great stuff from the bullpen. Talk about tradability. I think you could add a lot of names here. Sean Armstrong is probably no longer in that category at this point unless he turns things around. But Paul Fry, who's getting up there close to 30, is definitely going to be in that conversation. So maybe that not just a Matt Harvey trade, but maybe the Orioles could ship off one of their relievers, get a couple prospects.
Yeah, Cesar Valdez, Tanner Scott, Paul Fry.
Cesar Valdez,
maybe Cole Sulser, maybe Travis Lakins.
Valdez turning into a trade piece is just wow.
Both hilarious
what a roller coaster.
And amazing.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Also, one thing we should touch on: Ryan Mountcastle has had some struggles. He has
struggles is a nice word for that.
He has not looked like the guy that we saw last year, and I think it comes down to, just from our perspective, his plate discipline is not nearly what it was last year.
No.
And that was something that we had heard about him. The reason that he spent so long in the minor leagues was because the Orioles wanted him to improve his plate discipline, and everyone was looking at it and saying, he's hitting over 300. He's hitting 25 homers at AAA. What else do you need to see from him? They needed to see those increased walks. And when he got his call up last year, in 2020, the final month of the season, he looked like he knew what he was doing at the plate, and he was taking a lot more walks. He took a walk in the first game, I think, of his major league career, and it just feels like he doesn't have the same patience. He's reaching for a lot of pitches. Darren O'Day made him look a little silly with a pitch yesterday, and just not a good at-bat from him, struck out with guys on base. He has been just very different and in a funk recently.
Well, look, I'm not going to slam the panic button on Ryan Mountcastle. He has not had a ton of professional games under his belt. We have to keep that in mind. And it kind of looks like right now he's just pressing a little bit. I think he knows that he is in a slump and is trying really hard to get out of it. And I think he just needs to let the pitches come to him a little bit more. He is aggressive early in the count, probably more aggressive than he should be. And he's aggressive on pitches out of the zone.
Yeah, and now that he has, pitchers have a little bit of a book on him too.
Yeah.
They've had an off season to look at what he does well and what he doesn't do well, and he needs to adjust. And that's a natural thing for anybody has 50 games under his belt at the big league level. He's going to have to make adjustments.
The good news for Mountcastle, he's got 2 hits over his last 3 games. The bad news for Mountcastle is those 2 hits are his only 2 hits since April 15th.
Yeah. He drilled that double to the wall yesterday.
Yeah, which was a good sign. But in the last 9 games since April 15th, he's hitting .069 with a 125 on base percentage, slugging just 103. And like I said, 2 hits and the 1 double last night. That's not the nicest stat line there for Ryan Mountcastle.
Brandon Hyde has bumped him down in the lineup. I think he hit 7th yesterday.
Yep, 7th was his lowest spot in the lineup the whole season.
So we will see if that continues. If Brandon Hyde continues to tinker with where he's putting him in the lineup, maybe continues to tinker with giving him some days off as well. He has not been afraid to give guys days off if they're struggling. We've seen it with Mancini earlier on in the year, and maybe he'll do the same with Mountcastle.
And I think Mountcastle, like I said, will turn things around. I don't know if he's going to hit .333 like he hit last year, but he is going to get better, and I think he needs to take a page out of Austin Hayes' playbook, who said when he first came back, he was pressing, and he just let things slow down a little bit, let the pitches come to him. Maybe he needs to go talk to Cedric Mullins, figure out some of what he is doing, and then he can be a little bit better at the plate.
Yeah, I mean, Austin Hayes is also a guy who needs to improve his plate discipline a little bit. He's only drawn one walk, I think, so far this season.
Austin Hayes never seen a ball he didn't want to swing at.
Yeah, which is good when it turns into 2 home runs on Sunday against the Oakland A's.
Yeah.
And that shows what he can do. Talk about a guy who has like all of the tools in his toolbox.
Yeah.
You just see flashes every single game, and it's staying healthy. But also, now that he is healthy for the time being, unfortunately, hopefully that after getting plunked yesterday by Darren O'Day in the hand, that doesn't cause him to miss any time. But that is something that he could definitely improve upon. His plate discipline.
Yeah, lucky he didn't break a finger on that pitch. I think we all saw Austin Hayes.
We saw flashbacks.
We saw him say some choice words in pain there, and I think our heads went to the same place in terms of not another injury for Austin Hayes. Come on, keep him on the field.
Well, we saw flashbacks to when he got drilled in the ribs last year and got a rib fracture that he played through for several games.
Yeah.
So
hopefully this one, he catches a break by not breaking any of his fingers on that pitch, and hopefully there's no issues there.
Exactly. Well, 3 more games left against the Yankees at home. Orioles are trying to separate themselves now from the last place Yankees in the AL East. Let us know what you think of the podcast. Of course, rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. Follow at Brendan Morty on Twitter. I'm at Paul Mancano on Twitter. Keep us updated as well. And we mentioned it earlier on the podcast, but we had the one, the only, the great Melanie Newman on earlier to do the all coffee draft, something that we've teased for quite a while, and now we finally get there. Enjoy. Extraordinaire Melanie Newman, and of course, coffee expert, which is the primary reason that we brought you on this podcast. Melanie, we know that we could talk Orioles with you all day, but you're literally doing that all day, every day. So we want to just jump right into the coffee stuff because this is your second area of expertise here.
Yeah, I really appreciate you letting me step out and really show the people all I've dreamed for in my life is just talking about coffee.
Yeah, I mean, it was the perfect combination for the grind, which you had during the shutdown, of course. And now we have to bring back the topic because I think Brendan and I are going to be at a severe disadvantage. Brendan more so than I.
Definitely me more so.
In this all coffee draft. But as such, it's going to be a 3-round draft. Just kind of no rules. Just kind of name a coffee is how I think we're going to do this. Brendan, do you want to start us off? Because you're going to be at such a disadvantage. It's a snake draft. We gave you the first overall pick.
Well, look, full disclosure, my best friend Ben used to work at a coffee shop. I do not drink coffee, so I texted Ben yesterday and said, we are doing this coffee fantasy draft, and I am completely lost. Please send me a list of coffee that you like, and that is what happened. So the first one that he sent me that I'm literally just going to read off this list is an oat milk latte. I've literally never had one before. Maybe it's good. I don't know. That's my first pick.
Melanie, what can you tell us about an oat milk latte?
Okay, so oat milk is the biggest new dairy alternative that you're going to add into a coffee drink right now. It really came out like winter of this last year. I personally loved it with like a gingerbread iced coffee because the oat milk is a little earthier, so it plays off of things like gingerbread really well. La Colombe actually does make a canned oat milk latte. If you want just a small sample size to check it out, I recommend it though. It's a nice alternative.
Wow. I wonder how you get the milk out of the oats if you just kind of squeeze them hard enough. If that's
so basically, I nailed the first overall pick. Is what I'm hearing.
By cheating. I mean, that's like texting Mel Kiper before the NFL draft to ask who you should take first overall.
Look, we did not explicitly say that no cheating was allowed.
We didn't, and you needed it. All right, Melanie.
You did say there were no rules. So.
Yeah, no rules whatsoever. All right, Melanie, you have the second overall pick. What is going to be your coffee of choice here?
Okay, so I'm going with the local roaster Rise Up Coffee. They're actually also the coffee partner for Iron Rooster, but it's an iced honey oat milk latte. They use simple honey syrup in it. Really light though. I don't like overly sweet coffees. I just like a little bit of flavor in it, but anything from Rise Up is just perfect.
Yeah, Rise Up is great stuff. I mean, that's a heck of a pick. And she's got the local tie in there, so she's bound to get some local fans who are going to agree with her. Wow, that is a smart pick with the number 2 overall pick, Melanie. That leaves me in a tough spot, but I think we all knew at the onset what was going to be my first overall pick here, and that's because the basic person that I am, I'm going to have to go with a pumpkin spice latte. I know it is only seasonal. I know that it is something that, is reserved for only the UGG-wearing members of society, but Starbucks does it better than anything. And from that month of October to late November, the best coffee on the market, my money, says pumpkin spice latte from Starbucks.
Are you going hot or iced?
Oh, I'm going hot. Iced maybe for if you get it in like September, but hot definitely in October and November.
Okay, so I do have to tell you this. Local plug here again. Uh-huh. Baltimore Coffee and Tea actually has a year-round pumpkin spice.
Really?
Yes.
Well, there you go.
A revelation for Paul Mancano.
Yeah. Writing that one down. That's great stuff. I mean, I feel like it is enhanced during the season, of course. It makes you, the smell makes you feel like you're more in the October, November. But it's something that you could step out on a chilly February afternoon and get yourself a pumpkin spice. That'd be nice.
Yeah, I'm nodding along, pretending to agree.
That's fair.
No basis.
Well, I have back-to-back picks here. So I'm going to go ahead and take another kind of basic coffee here, but a La Colombe vanilla draft. It is something that fortunately found its way into the refrigerators in the press box at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Melanie made that discovery for the home opener and sent it. Had to send me a picture about that because that was hugely important. What an upgrade inside the press box there.
Man, that's the best move they've ever made. I've just got to say it. Like, you walk in and you see the La Colombe cans and you're like, we're good. This is a W. Don't care.
Yeah. How many coffees are you drinking during an average broadcast, Melanie?
Okay, so if it's a night game, like what we have right now, I usually have 2 cups in the morning, and then I'll grab an iced coffee on the way into the park.
Okay.
If it's a day game, that usually still fits in with the 2 that I'm already having, and then I have 1 afterwards so I can get things done. Basically, what I'm saying is I exceed my limits at 3 to 4, but it's a big cutback from what I used to drink in the minor leagues.
1,000% of daily value of coffee is probably.
Oh yeah,
that sounds about right.
Yeah, like I've had doctors tell me that I need to cut back.
Yeah, that's how you know. Melanie, you have the next pick here. What is going to be your second coffee selected here?
All right, I am going to go with Camino Coffee, which is a local coffee shop in Winston-Salem, but they brew Counterculture, which you can get anywhere. If you're going to buy Counterculture, I recommend a bag of Big Trouble. It's my favorite blend. But they have a coffee called Magic Iced Coffee, and any broadcaster that went through the Carolina League still dreams about Camino Coffee. It's that good. I don't know what they put in it. They won't tell us. There's a whole cinnamon stick in it. That's all I know. But it just makes your day just glitter. That's all.
Wow. I mean, just the depth of knowledge here and the esoteric names that are being brought out here. It is
useless knowledge.
We are among coffee greatness, Brendan. Truly.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing to add. I'm really trying to soak in the information. It's just not working.
Has it informed your next pick here, Brendan?
Not at all. Literally the only basis of my next pick was, is anybody going to read off something that is on this list that I was provided with?
Yeah.
And the answer was no. So the second thing on my list is a hot mocha latte with caramel, which is also apparently good. I couldn't tell you.
You can expand upon that if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, it exists. It comes in a cup.
All right.
That's it.
Melanie, do you have anything you'd like to add to Brendan's selection there to fill him in on what he just picked?
Well, she doesn't need to add anything. I'm giving such great analysis here.
True.
This is by and far the best draft I've ever been a part of, entertainment-wise. I think it's a good start for a beginner because it's almost, especially with the caramel, it's a lot like a hot chocolate. So I would think if you wanted to go in that direction, that's good. We actually had Danny Wetzelman, who works for MLB Network and Sirius, among other things.
Mm-hmm.
She'd never had coffee. And we actually got her to start drinking coffee this year, but that's where we started her because she messed up and her first was just a black coffee. And she's like, this is nasty. Why do you do this? And we're like, no, like add mocha, add other things and you'll be good. She just bought a coffee maker yesterday. So
Wow.
Brendan, there's hope.
Hooked. There we go. At some point, we're going to have to get a Keurig machine for this apartment.
Apparently.
Yeah. I what my trick is to try to get Brendan is I usually buy the coffee for him as an incentive.
And even that doesn't work most of the time.
Even that is not enough of an incentive to get Brendan. All right, Brendan, you have back-to-back picks here. What's going to be your second pick?
Oh, no. I was not prepared. Okay.
Read the
What
script,
else is
please.
on my list?
I
This
think
is a
you
lot
have
of reading.
back-to-back picks, right?
Yeah, that's how this snake draft works.
Right.
Iced dirty chai latte is the next one.
All right.
That also comes in a
What's-
cup sometimes. This one's iced, though, so it's cold. There's my analysis.
So what exactly is a dirty chai?
Literally no idea.
Melanie, do you have any insight here?
So chai is a tea derivative. It's actually, my mom goes to chai tea lattes a lot. I've actually never had one. Chai and matcha have been the big tea family that want to feel like they drink coffee moves. Yeah, not my thing personally. I like that it's iced. 99% of the coffee I drink is iced. But apart from that, I actually can't tell you much about it.
First time derivative has been used on this podcast. I would say, yeah, I've had the chai lattes. I like the chai. I tried matcha once because it looked like mocha, and I thought, all right, I can mess with that. Tasted, I'll be honest, a little bit like pond water. I mean, it.
Yeah, I'm so
Not a
sorry.
fan. Green coffee is probably not the way to go. All right, Melanie, I think you're back on the board here with your final pick here.
Oh, that's a tough one because there's still a lot of local spots that I could hit. But I do have to give it to the franchise that I've been drinking since I was probably far too young with Dunkin' Donuts.
Nice.
So they have a new cold brew coffee with a sweet foam on top. That's going to be my final pick. I actually blend it in though, because otherwise when you drink it, you just get all foam. And I kind of like the mix to where it's just a creamy iced coffee. But yeah, we're going with that one.
Nice. There's a Dunkin' Donuts right across the street from our apartment that on the days when we can go to the ballpark, we can just step out of our apartment, get the coffee on the way, and walk over to Camden Yards and drink it on the way. That's clutch.
I miss it.
Do you?
I lived on top of a Dunkin' last year in the Inner Harbor, and it was like the best situation. I mean, you literally walked downstairs and you turned 2 feet. Like we shared a building.
That's amazing. That's like, when you're across the street from like a Krispy Kreme and you can smell the donuts. That is just incredibly tempting. All right.
That's dangerous.
Mr. Irrelevant, I think I have this pick here.
Yeah.
I'm going to go also with a local joint here. And that would be Babies on Fire, which is a place that is, I know the name is shocking and horrifying, but I assure you it has nothing to do with what it sounds like. This place is in Mount Vernon in Baltimore. Excellent little local joint, and they make a great cordata. I have no idea what it means, but I think it's a spice coffee, and it is great stuff. On a Saturday morning, great walk down to Mount Vernon, grab yourself a cordata from Babies on Fire. Melanie, have you been there?
I have not even heard of that location. So that excites me because again, last year, just being so close, that was my motivation. If I wanted to go out and get a coffee and not make one at the house, I would run. So we went to like Vagrant and all of these other really awesome shops and Ceremony, of course. I'm adding that to the list though. That might be an early drive in to go check them out.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of hidden away, but it's a great little local joint there. So, Brendan, your 3 coffees are?
You're asking me to remember which 3 I took here?
Oat milk latte.
Oat milk latte, the hot mocha latte with caramel, and a iced dirty chai latte.
Gotcha. My 3 are the Starbucks pumpkin spice, La Colombe vanilla draft, and a Babies on Fire cordata. And Melanie, what are your 3 coffees?
I had the Rise Up iced honey oat milk latte, and then the Dunkin' cold brew with sweet foam, and Camino Coffee's magic iced coffee. And I do have to give a shout out. I'm wearing my Norfolk coffee shirt right now with a little coffee bean on it. So credit to our affiliate for just being the best alternate affiliate name in the universe. It's fine.
You can get the hats too that have the cup of coffee on there. Just great stuff.
Oh, I bought the jersey.
Nice. So, Melanie, was this more or less fun than that insane 8th inning yesterday of Orioles-Yankees that ended in Aaron Boone's ejection?
So I will say this has been hilariously fun. That's a different type of like semi-anxiety inducing fun.
Yeah.
I am really glad though, this year, especially with the COVID separation, I actually go up to the booth that Jim and Kevin would normally call from. So I do pre and post right next to them. And then I go up to the third level and I'm by myself in a room. And I'm kind of glad because I don't know if they ever watch the camera that they have on me for the entire game, but I very much like get animated with plays. Like Mullins is hitting a home run and I'm like fist pumping in the air and out of my chair. And that play, Judge came into third and I'm just, my hands are all over my face and I couldn't believe it. And then they called him out and I was like, yeah, like you're out of here, Boone, get out. I'm really glad that I'm tucked away from any public visibility for that particular case.
So what we know now is now that we have fans back in the ballpark, if you're at the game and a crazy play happens, look up to the broadcast booth behind home plate where you will see Melanie Newman standing and going crazy.
It's a show.
Well, this has
It's
been
brought to you by coffee.
Yeah, this has been so much fun. Thanks so much for hopping on, Melanie. Long anticipated coffee draft, and I think we all know who the winner is going to be here, but
it's going to be me.
Let us know who you think won this draft. And of course, Melanie, we'll see you on the broadcast tonight. Thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, guys, I can't wait.